Yo, what is going on, guys? J.Yumeko here, and today we're back with some more Crimson Gray. Last time we left off, it was sort of weird. We escaped from her basement, and now we're dating again? So, a lot of stuff happened, basically, so I highly recommend that you go and check out the previous episode. But yeah, so we're gonna just jump right on back into it today, and keep in mind that if you enjoy this series, then you should hit the subscribe button and turn on post notifications so you'll be notified when a new one of these videos comes out. Alright, let's see, where do we leave off? Here we go. I will warn you, I might be a little bit low energy. I just have not been getting very good amounts of sleep. But anyways, aside from that, let's get back into it. Lizzie met him at the edge of the fair, shifting from foot to foot eagerly. Her face lit up when she saw him, and she immediately hurried to meet him.
Oh, you're finally here. This is going to be so much fun.
I'm glad to spend time with you, but honestly, I haven't gone to the fair in a few years.
Oh, I'm sure we'll have fun. Besides, the important thing is that people will see us together.
What?
Dating doesn't really count unless a guy's willing to go to the fair with you. Guys don't talk like that?
No. Oops. For most guys, it's more about getting laid.
Well, I want that too. But let's go check out all the attractions first.
For a while they wandered, checking out all the attractions. Since the fair was still getting started up, it was easy to grab some food and cotton candy, which Lizzie happily fed him pieces of while they walked. Honestly though, the idea of people thinking of them as a boyfriend and girlfriend felt wrong. Too trivial. He wasn't sure what word was appropriate for them, after everything they had been through, but he was certain that he was more committed to Lizzie than he had ever been to anyone. And the way her eyes met his, not trying to hide the madness within, he felt very at peace with their relationship. It felt right. Whatever it was.
Oh!
Oh god, what was that?
Ooh, is that a knife throwing booth?
I suppose you want to try it?
Of course I do!
The man running the booth looked pretty sleazy, and John was fairly certain the game was rigged. There was a big guy in line in front of them who only got a knife in one target and seemed pissed about it.
Well, wanna impress your lady friend? We have some nice prizes if you can get a few knives in.
Actually, she'll be throwing.
Eh? Well, just be careful you don't cut yourself, little lady.
These knives are shit.
Look, we can't have people getting hurt. This is
It doesn't matter.
Lizzie proceeded to hit a target with every single knife. She didn't just throw them. Her arm lashed out like a snake, and the next second, the knife was deep in one of the targets. The man running the booth just looked irritated that his game was beaten, but he grudgingly showed them to the wall of prizes. Lizzie clapped her hands gleefully.
Ooh, what should we get?
You won. What do you want?
I guess... How about the big teddy bear? On the top? I can take anything I want, right?
Just take what you want and go.
John took down the teddy bear and handed it to her. She hugged it with a cute little squeal, then skipped away. John followed with an odd expression. The stuffed bear? Really?
I like taking them apart.
She cast a quick glance at him, hesitant for a moment, but he smiled at her and she went on.
As in, limb from limb. It helped me calm down before I found you.
Well, maybe we'd better not do that in public, but if you want dismemberment bears, we can get dismemberment bears.
Aw, how sweet.
Seeing her win the game so effortlessly had made him a bit curious, though. When John spotted a high striker booth, he directed them toward it. He kind of marveled at the pole with the bell at the top. He'd seen them in pictures, but he hadn't been sure that they actually existed anymore. Some classmates he barely recognized were trying their luck at the moment, swinging the hammer high overhead, and bringing it down onto the target as hard as they could. None of them got the slider more than halfway to the bell. You want to give it a try? Oh, that was her.
You want to give it a try?
Yeah, let's. He gave the pad at the base of the pole his best swing. The slider went up about halfway, about like most of his peers. He was happy with that. He'd expected to do a lot worse. But that didn't really matter. Once he was done, John put in another quarter and then extended the hammer toward Lizzie.
Me?
Yeah, and don't hold back. Hit as hard as you can. Hit as hard as you can.
Well, I don't know about that.
But she giggled and took the hammer from him all the same. While the light stopped flashing, Lizzie held the hammer in one hand and got into position. When she actually struck, it was surprisingly fast. She raised the hammer, grasped it in both hands, and then somehow a second later she had already slammed it down. Hard. The slider shot upwards and struck the bell with a cracking sound before it fell back down.
Oops, too hard.
That's what I thought, though.
Wait, do I not get anything now?
I think the lights just flash and tell you that you're really strong.
That's really disappointing.
She didn't seem disappointed, though, smiling at him as they walked onward.
So, you were curious about me?
Just wondering how strong you actually are.
I'm not sure, to be honest, but it's always been that way. As soon as I went to kindergarten and met other kids, I realized that I had to slow down and pretend to be weak, or they would look at me too much.
Well, it's pretty impressive.
I like hammers. They're just very messy. Knives are more fun to collect, and so practical, but what really feels best in my hand is an axe. I'm not sure why.
That might be another conversation better left for private.
Okay.
They walked onward, just chatting and enjoying each other, and John almost forgot about the fact that he was carrying the giant stuffed bear. But he got a reminder when he heard an unpleasant snicker. Are you fucking serious? You two came around here to play with stuffed animals? One of his classmates was there with his girlfriend, pawing at her chest while she giggled and swatted at his hands. They both leered at John and Lizzie holding hands. I mean, what are you, 12? Once, taunts might have bothered him, but now John didn't care. He didn't even have any desire to prove that his friend was wrong. When he thought about what he had with Lizzie and felt her squeeze his hand, he just didn't care.
Come on, let's ditch these losers.
His classmate's girlfriend led them away, and John didn't really care about that either. When he gave Lizzie a smile, though, she seemed a bit irked. You can just ignore them, you know.
Yes, but that won't be satisfying. Come on, this way.
She dragged him into a narrow alley between two stalls. A little ways down, there was a closed-off space in between several of the temporary stalls. Surrounded on three walls, on three sides, the sounds of the fair seemed softer. He became very aware of how alone they were as Lizzie slid off her jacket. Oh, whoa.
You want to do something not childish at all?
Yes, I think I do.
I don't know how you can just ignore what they say like that, but I admire it. Me? I want to do something to prove them wrong.
She pulled off her skirt and smiled. Oh yes, this is definitely a skirt. Let's go! Let's go, my boy John, bro, my boy John. Well, you're doing a good job. Oh, it just skips it? Come on. Alright, I guess we're just gonna have to use our imaginations on that one.
You have no idea how much I enjoyed that. We fit together so perfectly. It's like we were made for each other.
He leaned back against the wall, needing a moment to catch his breath.
That good, huh?
Lizzie stood up and gave him a hug before putting her bra and shirt back on. Wow, that felt amazing.
I know. I want to do this. I want to do this and so much more.
Maybe give me a break, though. Lizzie giggled mischievously and took his hand to pull him from the alley.
Okay, but not too long.
Soon they headed back out of the alley. John felt like everyone must have noticed, but no one even looked at them. Actually, things outside seemed different. He frowned and glanced at Lizzie, who paused for a moment, then nodded. Is something wrong?
The sounds in the distance aren't normal. There's too much tension.
As soon as she said it, he realized that she was right. It didn't sound like people talking and having fun. They were upset about something. They glanced at each other very briefly, nodded, and then headed toward the source of the commotion. Soon they arrived at a densely packed group of people, clustered around a line of police tape. He could see a few cops moving within it, and spinning lights lit the entire scene in strange colors, but he couldn't tell what happened. Lizzie frowned, pondering something. She nodded her head toward the crowd, so he headed forward to learn more. He found a familiar face in the crowd and tapped her shoulder. Hey, what's going on?
Oh God, it's horrible. Someone from our school was killed.
Who?
His face was taken off entirely. They're still trying to identify him.
Oh shit. Do they know who did it?
They say, I can't believe this, but they said it was some girl from our school. She stabbed 2 of the police officers, like with a knife. They were rushed to the hospital.
Whoa, what about her?
They shot her. Seriously. Or at least that's what I heard. I just got here in time to see the body before they covered it up, but I didn't see the violent part.
How horrible. Thanks for telling me, though. His classmate went back to staring at the crime scene, so he let himself drift back to Lizzie. Her eyes had grown serious, so he followed her as she put some distance between them and the crowd. Normally I would have guessed it was you, but...
No, it wasn't. I would kill anyone who got between us, anyone you wanted me to, but I wasn't involved with this.
Do you have some idea, though?
There was another girl. Not like me, but similar.
In our school? Really?
Her mother knew Abby. They got kicked out of a Koitek program together.
For the same reason? Being pregnant? Oh, you've got to be kidding me.
I never liked her. We never really spoke, but I think she could have been capable of this.
Then what do we do?
I think we should go. Stay far away from this.
I'm not arguing with you there. She went with him to his door and he kissed her goodnight, but they both knew that things hadn't been entirely settled. Not yet. He tried to watch the news, but it was all meaningless speculation about what could have caused the girl to murder her boyfriend so brutally. He had to turn it off after only a few minutes. Though there were still more questions. When he went to bed, he found they slipped away from him and he fell asleep remarkably quickly. That night he had a dream that Lizzie had murdered both his classmates. He saw her standing over their torn open bodies, covered in blood. She saw him and bared her teeth in a smile, and then kissed him, and then... It wasn't a bad dream. Jesus Christ.
Good lord of this horn dog.
The next morning, John woke feeling the best he'd felt in a long time. He had to remind himself that most people would be in mourning over the 2 murders the night before. I just love how, like, you know, he casually has this dream, like, oh yeah, Lizzie's just standing over these 2 disemboweled bodies covered in blood, and then we fucked. Oh, wow, what a great sleep that was. Oh man, I'm feeling so rejuvenated right now. The school had the flag at half-mast, and a class was cancelled so they could have a special assembly about the incident. It meant basically nothing to him, and to most of the other students as well. It seemed to have shaken everyone else to the core, but John still felt good. Maybe that meant something was wrong with him, but he didn't really care. He felt like he and Lizzie were even closer than before, but when she arrived, there was a strange look on her face.
John, something is wrong. Someone wants to take you away from me.
Lizzie, are you feeling well?
Please, we need to run away together or we won't have another chance.
It seemed like she had become more unstable, and what she was saying must have been her paranoia. Yet, she seemed strangely intense about the whole thing. Just run away? How would that even work?
I've made plans. We could do it, I'm sure.
As serious as she sounded, perhaps this was necessary for her to stay stable. But doing something that wild out of nowhere, after everything that had happened to them, could he? Would he just make her even worse? Uh-oh! Alright, well, obviously, we're gonna save. You know, with all this Koitek shit, and then, oh, there's somebody else who's just as insane. Like, why not run away together, right? Where will we go? Won't that just attract attention?
No, I'm prepared. We can say the murder made us both want to transfer, then go away and live safe from all this.
If you say so, then I trust you.
Then we need to get away from here. Far, far away.
That very day, Lizzie arranged everything, pulling him out of school and apparently faking the permission slips. She seemed in earnest, madly jealous, as if a woman would sweep in at any moment and take him away. John went along with her in a daze, shocked by how fast it happened. Lizzie told him to say the murder had shaken him up too much, wouldn't let him see anyone, even Miss Smith. Other students were also shell-shocked, so it didn't raise too much attention. But when they left town, in a car with supplies Lizzie had prepared, John almost felt like someone was following them. Was Lizzie's paranoia just rubbing off on him? He told himself it had to be that, because eventually the feeling vanished. They moved away, finished school, found new lives. For years afterward, John wondered about that moment. Had he made the right choice to support Lizzie, or had he just encouraged unnecessary paranoia? Maybe it didn't matter at all, yet somehow he couldn't make himself believe that. Perhaps in another life, things could have gone differently. Occasionally, he wondered why Lizzie still seemed so nervous about the entire thing. When he asked, she just told him that it didn't matter anymore. They were safe. As the years passed, she began to calm down. She still had days where she needed him to hold her tight, just like he had days where he needed her support. Despite everything, they were a normal couple. After they were married, Lizzie softened again. His co-workers told him he was lucky to have such a beautiful, devoted wife, and he was. He just had to pretend that he was the one with the enormous collection of knives. Alright, there is another path. So we got the happiness achievement there. I'll just call it the happiness ending. So we're going to go back, and we're going to load this one. We're going to stay this time. I'm sorry, Lizzie, but no. Things are safe now. No one's going to steal me away from you.
Okay.
The encounter with Lizzie dampened his mood substantially, but he told himself that he was still correct. They had gotten through a difficult time in their lives and things were better now. After school, he got a call to go to Miss Smith's office. He considered just not going at all. He wanted to spend the evening with Lizzie, but the note seemed urgent. When he arrived, he found Miss Smith with a rather grim expression on her face.
John, I hope you're doing alright after the incident. I understand that the boy who died was a friend of yours.
That felt like an eternity ago, but he realized that it was more or less true. He shook his head slowly. An old friend, but yeah, it's hard to believe.
Well, I thought we should have a conversation.
It's okay, Miss Smith. I feel like I'm doing okay. There are other students who probably need more help than I do.
I'm afraid I must insist. Lie down.
He almost defied her then, but in the end decided to do as she asked. The therapy sessions always made him feel better. It couldn't hurt. No reason to draw attention to himself or Lizzie, after all. Alright, what do you want to talk to me about? My feelings about the incident?
No, there's no time for that today.
Huh?
I need you to relax. Immediately.
Uh-oh! John began to settle back onto the couch, letting her words become a meaningless hum. And for the first time, he realized how wrong that was. He lay there, apparently relaxed, as he tried to think back to their past therapy sessions. The more he thought about them, the more he realized an ominous pattern. He could barely remember any details. They would chat for a while, then the rest of their session was just a white haze.
Ready? I need you to remain calm and come with me.
She spoke flatly, as if she expected to be obeyed without question. What was this? Some sort of hypnosis? Well? Realizing that she might get upset, John slowly got to his feet. He wasn't sure how he was supposed to act, but he settled for straightforward obedience.
Delayed response. Have you been taking your Paxitine lately?
He gave a half shrug and just stared at her. Miss Smith frowned. Then she shook her head, and gestured for him to follow.
I suppose it doesn't matter. All of this is normal. You want to follow me and await instructions.
John had no choice but to do as she left the building. But to do so as she left the building. But inside, he was panicking. What was he supposed to do now? If he hadn't seen Lizzie, he could have begged her to follow with his eyes. If he'd seen Lizzie, he could have begged her to follow with his eyes. But he didn't even see a hint of her, not even watching him from around a corner. They walked outside into the parking lot where Miss Smith opened the passenger seat of her car and gestured for him to get in. He stepped inside and tried to keep the tension off his face, instead just staring forward. They didn't drive very far, just to a warehouse a few blocks from the school. It looked half abandoned, but when their car approached, the gates and then one of the garage doors opened for her. Inside there were multiple armed men in gray body armor. He didn't see any insignias on them or any indication of who they worked for.
Why don't you take a seat, John?
He got out of the car to obey, only then spotting the blank white table and 2 chairs placed in the center of the warehouse floor. Sitting down, he tried to stare blankly at the table even as he analyzed what it held. There were 2 metal briefcases, and, just to make things strange, a box of surgical gloves.
Remain calm but focused on me, John. You're aware of your surroundings but are willing to accept what I say.
Huh? Not the most elegant of lies, but it seemed to work. Miss Smith barely even glanced at him, instead pulling on a pair of surgical gloves.
We've brought you here for your own protection, John. I'm afraid that your girlfriend is not who you believe she is.
Lizzie? What's the problem? Is she okay?
I'm afraid not. Not even close. Years ago, Koitek was an innovative company on the very forefront of biochemical research, but I'm afraid some of the company's founders were less than ethical.
What does this have to do with us? Shut up, I'm getting there. Testing standards were rather lax. In particular, there was a certain test of a mood drug that should probably never have been certified. Dozens of lawsuits were settled for families that suffered in the tests. That is right and good. Koitek acknowledges the mistakes of the past. Unfortunately, some of those mistakes were more enduring. 4 pregnant women participated in the test without disclosing their pregnancies. They were, of course, removed as soon as their condition was realized, but it was too late for the embryos. One became completely non-viable and was stillborn. There's conflicting evidence about the second, but it appears the boy may have committed suicide at a young age. But we are concerned with the last 2. One of them was the murderer who police put down last night, and the last was Lizzie Dawes. Huh? You're saying Lizzie had some kind of condition?
Early investigation suggested that both girls turned out normal, so the matter was closed. But recent events make it very likely that the both of them were deeply disturbed. I'll be blunt. The girl is not remotely stable. She's a danger to herself and others.
Do they really think that would work? That he would just nod and accept that story with guards all around them, armed like paramilitary forces? Then again, perhaps she was counting on her therapy to have a controlling effect. Either way, all he could do was keep up his act. There was no doubt truth in what she was saying, and he needed to learn more. Then, what do you want me to do? Why can't all your guards take care of it?
John, we don't want to hurt the girl. Not at all. We want to help her. We would prefer she came in quietly.
The implicit threat hung in the air. John swallowed and nodded. Then, what am I supposed to do?
The girl trusts you. If you can administer a sedative to her, then we hope we can medicate her without any unnecessary...
I can't breathe. Unnecessary struggling. Miss Smith opened the first metal case, showing him a number of syringes filled with disturbingly bright liquid. They looked like chemicals that would melt metal, not ones that should go into anyone's body.
If you are receptive to our plan, we will provide you with a variety of options. We have extra strength sedatives here, for example. However, based on the incident yesterday, I personally believe we need a more extreme option. I would advise you to use this one. Her fingers brushed the last syringe in the briefcase, one filled with a bright red liquid. This is a modified version of the chemical that Lizzie was exposed to in utero.
Wouldn't that be really dangerous?
Her body can barely handle the level of exposure she already received. An additional dose should lock her down entirely.
Oh, I got an achievement called The Right Path? What the hell? And you expect me to convince her to be injected with something like that?
It does not need to be injected intravenously. Autopsies of the other girl indicates the chemical has a substantial effect on muscle tissue, so an injection into any muscle would be effective.
Autopsy. This was more of a conspiracy than he'd imagined. But there was no time to reel from that now. John simply nodded as if this was vaguely reasonable. Oops. Well, I want her to get the help she needs. Are you sure this won't hurt her?
Let me be honest with you here, John. There will likely be some sort of pain for her body. There will likely be some pain for her body as
I can't read. Jesus fucking Christ.
Let me be honest with you, John. There will likely be some pain for her as her body rejects the chemical, but it may be the only way to ensure that she harms no one and cooperates with treatment.
I see. He sat forward and held his head in his hands as if he needed to think, which he desperately did need to do. Would they really just give him the syringes and let him go? He doubted it. At the very least, they'd be keeping him under heavy surveillance. Talking directly to Lizzie would be impossible. In fact, he had wondered if everything Miss Smith was saying wasn't just a backup plan. It might be no accident that Lizzie was missing. Maybe they were looking for her. But ultimately, he didn't have enough information, and he didn't see any way of getting to the point he needed to reach with so many security forces present. Excuse me. Smith, HQ hasn't responded. Damn it. We'll just need to proceed with the plan then. No, it's not that. We seem to have lost our connection. Then this case is completely under my authority. John, we're counting on you to end this without anyone else getting hurt. I hope I can do that. You can. I'm sure of it. Then, should I... At that point, a radio crackled. One of the soldiers raised a walkie-talkie and tapped the button. What was that, Perimeter? Attack! Repeat! Under attack! Shit, directly? Alright, switch to plan C. Get moving. The soldiers rushed to obey and John rose with them. Surely it had to be Lizzie attacking them, but what did that mean? He only got one step before two soldiers grabbed his arms and forced him back down into the chair. He struggled, but they were adults and far stronger than he was. I'm sorry, John, but it looks like you'll have to serve as a bait. As she spoke, she opened the second metal case. This one held syringes filled with clear liquid, one of which she lifted and examined. What? Miss Smith, what are you doing? This is going to hurt, I'm afraid, but as she snapped, this is all you're good for now. He tried to struggle even harder, but the soldiers had gotten him strapped into the chair. Bound in place, he was helpless to do anything but twitch as Miss Smith approached with the needle. Before he could do anything to stop her, she injected it straight into the vein in his arm, and the pain was instant. His world went white and his ears rang so loudly he could barely see or hear anyone. Miss Smith was desperately giving orders and the soldiers were moving about, but he couldn't understand any of it. He had never felt anything so painful before. His thrashing partially tore one of the straps binding him, then he slumped down with agony still washing through him. Through the pain, he dimly saw Lizzie arrive and slaughter the remaining soldiers. She seemed heavily injured, but it didn't stop her erratic, deadly movements. Lizzie had Miss Smith pinned down. She was saying something, but he couldn't hear her over the rushing in his ears. It felt like his heart was going to burst with every beat. Distantly, he realized that Lizzie was threatening Miss Smith, then torturing her. Whatever was said, it didn't matter. He fell away into the blazing white pain. He faded back into reality with cool hands on the side of his face, piercing through the agony all around him. Somehow, he managed to open his eyes despite the pain. Lizzie's lips moved, but he couldn't hear anything. He realized that she was crying and didn't understand why. All he wanted was for the pain to stop. She leaned forward to kiss him, and the kiss was sharp and cold. He kissed back for a long time before he realized that her axe had entered his chest. It felt cool, almost pleasant. The burning hot white all around him began to fade to darkness. The last thing he saw before it all was Lizzie. He tried to say goodbye, but it was too late. Oh, we just died again. Okay. Alright. Well, that wraps up Crimson Gray, I guess. So, we do have, the, I guess, after story game of this. That's definitely one way to end it, I suppose. So, you have a good ending where they run away and live a happy life. And then you have this ending where we just die again. Some of my thoughts on this game were that I enjoyed it. I think it did have a bit of an interesting storyline, and I guess if I had one thing that I would have wanted is maybe some more divergency, I suppose. I feel like a lot of the options probably would have probably wouldn't have changed much of what the ending ended up being. Obviously, I'm not sure of that, but that's just kind of the impression I get. Definitely need to work on maybe an original soundtrack. I think that might have been cool because obviously a lot of the stuff used was your kind of typical copyright-free music, right? I'm not going to fault them too much on that, but yeah, overall I think this game, if you were to maybe remake it and put some more, remake it with, I guess, a bigger budget, I suppose, it could definitely be something that is very interesting. But yeah, I guess we're gonna have to see how they expand on the story in the next game. But anyways, that's gonna be for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like on it and tell me in the comment sections below what you would like to see me play next. If you enjoyed this series or any other videos or series on my channel, then I highly recommend that you hit the subscribe button and turn on post notifications so you will be notified when a new one of those videos comes out. That's it for me, and I'll see you in the next one.